Hello everyone, in the last video we discussed regarding primitive data structure. So in this video we are going to discuss about what is non-primitive data structure. So basically non-primitive data structure is a kind of data structure. It is allows to store multiple data values. So in the last video we observed that primitive data structure, if I am interested to only store the integer value, that moment I need to mention only integer data type. In there I'm unable to store if I'm interested also like decimal fraction or exponential form. In that moment I need to use another kind of data structure, that is float. But here the non-primitive data structure is saying that so it can store the multiple values. The first thing is that the non-primitive data structure, it can able to store multiple data type values. So, and one more thing, the primitive data structure is a fundamental data structure. The non-primitive data structures are the derived from primitive data structure. These are all derived from the primitive data structures. And as I mentioned, it will compare to the primitive data structure, it is non-primitive data structures are the complex data structure. So as I mentioned it here, I am not only storing any one kind of value, it can able to store like homogeneous data. Homogeneous means it can able to store only same data type elements, homogeneous and heterogeneous. So what is homogeneous elements? Homogeneous elements is nothing but it is a collection, refer collection of data elements, collection of data elements that are all of the same data type, of the same data type. Okay, like an array. We will discuss what is an array in upcoming sessions. Okay, for example, if I taking now, so if I go and store the elements like a, b, c, d, what is this belongs to known as alphabets, right? So that we can able to make in a single group, so that is homogeneous element. Here I am not inserted any kind of numbers. Number is a digit, it is not belongs to the alphabets, that is homogeneous element. What is heterogeneous element? Heterogeneous element is also it's a collection of data elements, but we can able to collect a different data type element. It is not belongs to the same, different data type elements. Example, if I'm writing here for this, like I can able to store like alphabets, number, and as well as special character like comma, period, etc, etc. Okay, so this is basically we known as heterogeneous data elements. So we will move on to the what are the characteristics of non-primitive data structure. In the non-primitive data structure, we have several characteristics of them. The first we have to discuss, as I mentioned, non-primitive data structures are the more complex than the primitive data structure. Like we have the data types like in a primitive data structure, int, char, float, etc. And also here the store a group of values often are different data types and provide a ways to manage and organize the data in a more efficient in a non-primitive data structure. We will discuss the characteristics one by one. The first characteristics of the non-primitive data structure is complexity. So basically complexity, what is complexity? Non-primitive data structure can handle multiple values or more sophisticated. As I mentioned, it can able to handle, it can store the multiple values, right? It can able to store a different data types values. That moment it has to storing nothing but it's a complexity it will be indicating. Suppose if I am including, like if I am storing the array elements, if I am storing a linked list element, linked list is a kind of non-primitive data structure, and we have queue, a tree, it can able to store different kind of data type, right? So that moment it need what? Complexity. Okay, next we will go for homogeneous heterogeneous. As I mentioned, homogeneous means whatever the element will be collection or stored element of the same data type. Okay, it not, suppose I'm interested to store the numbers like 1 2 3, which is belongs to what? Integer, right? It can able to only store like 1 2 3 4 etc up to infinity, only integer value. If I'm interested to store the means alphabets, that moment I need what? Like character, means sorry, string, it will be store the alphabets, right? So that the same data type will be known as what? Homogeneous element. Or if I store in a different data types, you know about in a C++ we have a structure, right? In a struct, if I create the structure data type, that moment I can able to suppose struct person name, person. So that means what we need, first one is a string. What is string? We store for name value, right? If I'm interested to store the age, that moment I need what? Like int. If I am interested to store like the weight of the person, that moment I need what? Float to data type, right? So this is, it can able to store different, that moment we known as a heterogeneous, means have a characteristics of non-primitive data structure. And we'll move on to the next is the dynamic memory allocation. Dynamic nothing but while during the execution we are storing the things. Okay, while during the execution we are assigning the value storing. So that is we are also known as a, in a non-primitive data structure, dynamic memory allocation is also there. In non-primitive data structure such as linked list, we will, and trees use the dynamic memory allocation to adjust their size during the runtime. So this is one of the characteristics of non-primitive data structure. We go for flexibility. Non-primitive data structure can be tailored specific needs. What I am saying, that suppose if I am interested to nothing but flexibility, suppose as I mentioned as the homogeneous and heterogeneous, depending on my requirement, either I can store the same data type or different data type in a collection, right? So that is a flexibility. But when it comes to the primitive data structure, I'm only storing what? Integer. Even though I'm interested, I am unable to store what? Float data type, sometimes character data type, it won't accept, right? That flexibility I need, because while during some such problems it required modification like flexibility during the execution. So that's why we need what? Non-primitive data structure. Example, suppose I'm implementing like linked list, okay, implementing stack, so that is we need what? Flexibility. As one of the flexibility is nothing but dynamic memory allocation. If I am inserted 10 elements, while during execution I am interested to 20 elements, it is not possible in a static, right? If I go for the static allocation, it will static. Even though if I am interested to give some more element, it won't accept na. So that's why we need what? Flexibility. So this is one of the characteristics of non-primitive data structure. If you move on, we have scalability. What is scalability? The scalability is saying that there are essential applications that need handle large volumes of data. Because you can take an example, day by day growing, right? Like internet, in earlier days users are very less, but nowadays using more than many people. So that moment we need to manage, like take an example like Instagram. Presently we are using how many billions of users are using the Instagram, right? Their account is there, their videos is there, their content, their personal information, everything is there. We should manage, we should, day by day is increasing the data, right? So that moment what to do? We has to manage the data, we should store the data, right? So that moment, that is a scalability, saying that when the large amount of data should be there, we should capable to handle of that data. Okay, for instance, search engines like a complex data structure like index and retrieve a vast amount of information inefficiently. So that is a kind of scalability. We have the sorry scalability has a non-primitive data structure characteristics. Next, we have data abstraction. In a data, provide a higher level of abstraction, allowing developers to focus operation there rather than data abstraction. They provide higher level of abstraction, allowing developers to focus on the operation rather than what implement details. That moment, what we need, the code can be reduced, maintainable, and manageable. Is it right? If I go for the thing that can able to maintainable and manageable, and also that moment it will be reduced, what it makes codes more readable. So these are the things we have in the abstraction. It will focus on what developers only focus on operation rather than the implementation details. If I have a confirmation, have a proper knowledge what operation it will be take out like without any ambiguity, that moment what will lead make a code more readable. Okay, so these are the a few characteristics of non-primitive data structure. We will go for classification of non-primitive data structure. Majorly we have two types. I will take as data structure, non-primitive data structure. Basically it will be divided into majorly two types. One is that linear data structure, and the another one is non-linear data structure. So next we will move on to the further classification of this linear data structure. We have like array. Array is a kind of linear data structure, linked list, and another we have stack, queues. In a non-linear data structure we have trees and graph. So this is the classification of non-primitive data structure. Majorly we divided into two parts. One is linear data structure and another is non-linear data. If we'll go for further means classification or types of that. First, linear arrays in a linear data structure, linked list, stack, queues. In a non-linear, trees, graphs. Thank you.